Hey everyone, Author Barfield here, and welcome to Rat's Corner. Alright, so I'm going to apologize in case my voice sounds different or this video is a little more low energy than normal. I got sick last week at the same time I started working at Spirit Halloween, and both those combined just really resulted in a huge drain on my energy. So even though I'm over it pretty much, I'm still trying to save my energy, which means no big movements this week, and I should be back to flailing like you all love next week, but for now, I'm just going to be focusing on redoing some of my older videos, like I've been redoing recently, covering topics like subplots, what if you suck, how to vet your sources, all that fun stuff. But this video is all about how you make your characters suffer. So, making your characters suffer. But Noah, why do I want to make my characters suffer? I love my characters. I love them so much. Why do I want to hurt them? I've spent so much time making their backgrounds and their favorite types of pies, and they're my babies. Why do I want to hurt them? Well, actually, there's several really good reasons why you want to make your character suffer, besides the fact that it's just fun. Or maybe that's just me. Anyway, the reasons. So the first reason is that it's an excellent way to show your character's strengths and weaknesses. You can't drag someone down to the lowest point if they don't have any weaknesses. So it's a great way to humanize your characters, especially if they're aliens or have above human abilities. It shows vulnerability and allows us to sympathize with these characters, which is really important because it makes us like them even more. Also, whenever someone is drugged down to the lowest point and hammered into the dirt again and again, it allows them to have multiple obstacles to overcome, which might not seem like a good thing until you realize that they have to grow stronger to do it, which really showcases their strengths and makes us respect them as individuals. And it's a great way to just have them overcome whatever you throw at them, showing that they can laugh in the face of adversity. Unless you're wanting to make them crippled shells of their former selves, in which case, hey, that's all you, but that's not what I use suffering for most of the time. And the second reason why making your character suffer is actually an important thing to do is because it creates sympathy, which allows us to like these characters even more and relate to them on a more intimate, personal level. Also, in general, humanity has been suffering for a pretty long time, whether we're being mauled to death by saber-toothed tigers or just waging countless wars on each other. We have a pretty intimate understanding of suffering, so whenever we see someone in a pitiable circumstance or plight, it really evokes a strong reaction from us because we can either understand this or relate to it, and it allows us to sympathize with these people. But this is a great time for me to point out that, yes, it's a great way to evoke sympathy by making these people suffer. But if we don't like your characters, we're not really going to care whether they suffer or not. So if your character is a horrible person, if they don't have any redeeming qualities or traits, then we're just going to want to watch them burn to ashes. But if they do have redeeming qualities, then it's going to make us conflicted, and we're going to be able to have just a lot of emotional turmoil, which we're going to want to stay invested in your story just so we can have some sort of resolution. For instance, if you have a character who just slaughters an entire village because they don't have any regard for human life and it makes their blood magic stronger, we're probably going to want to see them on the torture rack. However, if you have a person who slaughters an entire village to fuel their blood magic because they need that magic to be able to save their sibling from an incurable sickness that is also crippled, well, then now we have a very complex character, and we're not sure whether we want to see them on the torture rack or not. Now, the third point on why making your characters suffer is actually a good thing is it also allows your characters to improve. You can't have someone improve if things are constantly going well. You need adversity and strife to be able to make your characters stronger and grow better than they were before. For instance, if you have a marathon runner who is about to go on their biggest race yet, but then they suffer a critical spinal injury that means that they're never going to run again. Well, thanks to new advances in science, they cut off their own legs and replaced them with robot legs. Now, this is an incredibly traumatic experience. Lots of suffering, lots of emotional turmoil, physical pain, physical adjustment, just a whole bunch of stuff they have to go through. But after the experience, they're not only able to win the race, but go on to become an Olympic gold medalist in running, I guess. And they're not only able to run like they were before, but faster. And if watching the CW's Flash has taught me anything, running faster is always a good thing. But Noah, we get it. Making them suffer is incredibly important, no matter how much I hate it. But how do we make our characters suffer? Why, that's easy. You just get really sick and twisted. Get psycho on them. I mean, doesn't everyone have that innate ability? No, just me again? Wow. Tough crowd today. But no, making your characters suffer, even though it's important, can be challenging for some people, but it's important to remember that suffering doesn't have to just be physical. It can be mental or emotional anguish as well. Maybe someone is pining after a love that can't be reciprocated. Maybe this person just keeps getting passed over a promotion time and time again, and why did they even go to school if they're not going to get promoted? What was the point in that? What is the point in having this loan on the house if they're not going to be able to afford it? What's going to happen to the kids? What's the point of this? And having that suffering, having that angst, having that strife in there doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional and it can be mental turmoil. And that is also a type of suffering. Suffering doesn't just come in one package. It's all shapes and sizes and different intensities. But if you really can't find it within yourself to create that amount of suffering or anguish, just look outside, look on the internet, look everywhere around you or throughout history or just outside your door. There's bound to be some showcases of suffering. Maybe someone has been passed over for promotion. Maybe someone has lost a loved one. Maybe, I don't know, they recently suffered a breakup. There's all different kinds of suffering in all different shapes and sizes. And if you can't find it within yourself to create that, just look outside for inspiration. There's a lot of that out there. Alright, Noah, we get it. That making your character suffer is important. Maybe I'm getting psycho, and I'm really starting to enjoy it, and I'm making my character suffer, but how do I make it relatable? How do I make my readers care that these people are suffering? Like, if my characters are getting ripped apart piece by piece slowly throughout the course of eons by space squids held in stasis, well, that's fine and well, but how is anyone going to relate to that? I mean, it's not like people are getting pulled apart piece by space squids, well, so often anymore. So how do I make my readers relate to characters, especially if they're in unrelatable circumstances? Well, suffering is pain, and we've all felt some sort of pain. So there's an easy way to make that relatable. Just think about pains you've experienced in your life. How did you feel? What physical reaction did you have to that? What emotional and mental reaction did you have to that? And it's important to remember that no matter what physical pain you experienced, you had a mental and emotional reaction to that as well. Same thing for the other way. If you had a mental or emotional suffering or pain, then you obviously had a physical reaction to it as well, and you may not have noticed it at the time, but upon reflection, you can commonly remember how you physically felt at the time. So whenever you experience pain, draw from that and blow it out or down in proportion as you need for the scene, because everyone has felt pain, and that's what you want to sell here. That's what you're wanting to make relatable, not the specific part of it, not the pulling apart by space squids or being tortured by wizards. No, it's the pain. It's the aspect of it. Maybe you can't relate to the physical aspect of being, crushed slowly in a vacuum created by magic, but the feeling of claustrophobia, or maybe of even just being trapped, that mental part right there that's just making you go out of your mind. Everyone's felt trapped at some point or another, whether it's been in a relationship or a house or an actual vacuum. I don't know your history. Well, then we're going to be able to relate to that in some way or another. So it's all about showcasing the different kinds of pain for what you want to try and evoke in that situation. Now, the second way that you can actually make the suffering and pain relatable is to use similar adjectives. So if you scraped your knee, then you can just really, really get into the pain of it, how you felt the pain blossoming up and welling deep from within, as how the hot anger of it was welling inside from the bones itself. And every time there was a breath of wind or air across it, it felt like new cuts being sliced into the newly exposed skin. Well, I mean, that's just you being scraped on the knee, but imagine how easily that can be applied if someone's twisting the knife inside while you're being hung up in chains in a dungeon. You can use similar adjectives, and like I said, just blow it out of proportion if you need to, or tone it down if your scene is a little less intense. We've all had some sort of suffering or pain at one time or another. How can you make sure that your stubbed toe becomes the most agonizing, excruciating experience possible in anyone's entire life? The third and final thing that I have to say about making the pain relatable, which is incredibly important. It's incredibly important to make the suffering relatable no matter what it is. It's important to make sure that we're going to understand and relate to it. The last thing that I have to say about that is use the relatable aspects and emotions of it. Like I said before, use the different adjectives and aspects of it. Maybe whenever you scraped up your knee, you weren't so focused on the physical aspect of it, but the mental anguish of, oh man, I ripped my pants and my mom's gonna be so angry about this now, I shouldn't have been in this place anyway, and that fear of being caught, that fear of getting in trouble, of disappointing, maybe that's what you want to focus on. Maybe that's the relatable aspect of someone else in this instance. It's not always going to be the initial thing that's going to provide the source of inspiration. Maybe it's looking deeper into that memory, or looking outward to that external source of inspiration, and also using relatable emotions for it. Maybe it wasn't the aspect of the pain, but the emotion you felt at the time. Maybe that's what you're trying to make relatable here. Not the physical aspect, not the different parts of it that you can relate to with the mental anguish, but the emotions there. And maybe that's the most important thing that you're trying to make relatable here. That's up to you, but those are just what I have to say on the subject, and now that I've finished with talking about suffering, as much as I enjoy it, it's time for me to brag about Legendland. So, my novel, Legendland, this beautiful thing right here, is available in a plethora of different places. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, and my own website, www.arc-storm.com, where, if you order it off of there, I will personally sign it for you, because I like to do that. Also find me across the entire interwebs. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and I'm obviously on here. You can also contact me at my website, arc-storm.com. You can fill out the contact box there, you can hit me up on Facebook or Twitter, or just leave a comment below, because I do my best to respond to all of them, and I love hearing from you guys. And speaking of hearing from you guys, don't forget to subscribe. So thank you all for watching. I hope this has been helpful and just a little bit disturbing, and that you continue to enjoy.